Nick Hogan actually got into a car crash, causing this man, John, permanent brain damage. John is a former U.S. Marine and a friend of Hulk Hogan's son, Nick. Thank you for your service. But we all know that Nick Hogan, he likes racing fast cars. He likes to speed, and that could be pretty controversial. I mean, he's had a ton of speeding tickets. On August 26, 2007, Nick was driving Hulk's car, a Toyota Supra, with John in the passenger seat when they were racing down the streets on the way to a local steakhouse. There is no steak good enough to go and race like that. Nick was only 17 at the time. He lost control of the car and crashed, completely destroying the car. John was 22 years old and not wearing a seatbelt. The crash caused him major brain injuries. He suffered permanent brain damage as a result and now needs full-time care for the rest of his life. Nick was charged with several violations and he had 8 months in jail. Hulk actually decided to blame John, the man with permanent brain damage, for the incident, saying, "I don't know what type of person John was or how he got himself into this situation. I know he was pretty aggressive and used to yell at people and do stuff, which is not the time to drag John when your son was at the wheel and it's your car." Deborah, John's mother, provided a statement saying, "The only thing I have to say is that he should be ashamed of himself, knowing that he virtually cost my son's life. He should have been living a life to honor my son, at least never driving recklessly again and potentially harming someone else. He's a grown man and his behavior is disgraceful." There was a lawsuit filed and it ultimately settled for $1.5 million, which does not fix, like, this guy. He does not come back. And it's really, I mean, accidents like that really scare me. To give you an idea of how serious this accident was, here is a clip of John after he had been injured.
Going home. Today's the big day.
Sean Graziano was released this morning from the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital in Tampa, 2 years after he suffered severe brain damage in a street race crash with Nick Balea, the son of wrestling star Hulk Hogan. Doctors determined that he had improved enough to go home, where he will have 24-hour care.
Now, this did not teach Nick a lesson because he ended up getting arrested in the same city 16 years later. Hulk Hogan's son was arrested and charged with a DUI in Clearwater, Florida. Shout out Clearwater. I used to live around there. A city where he was arrested 16 years ago in a car crash that critically injured a passenger. Nick failed to move over a lane for 3 patrol vehicles conducting a traffic stop, which then led to him getting searched. The sergeant who pulled him over reported that Nick showed signs of impairment and performed poorly on his field sobriety test. I could never drive drunk. Like, I really could not. He, of course, refused to take a breath alcohol content test, and he had a strong odor of alcohol on his breath. His balance was unsteady, and Nick wasn't doing too hot, so you're getting locked up. He was arrested at 1:42 a.m. Too late for me. And he had a misdemeanor charge of driving under the influence. It actually turns out that his father owns a bar in Clearwater called Hogan's Hangout. Maybe he was there getting some free drinks. He actually was with his father, I guess, that night that he was arrested. Hulk said he did not recall seeing his son drinking, but figured that he must have started after he had left for the night. You can see the officer approaching Nick in a body cam video, and he tells him that "you almost ran me over," referring to the traffic stop where he did not stop and almost ran over an officer, which would have been a way worse story. Nick said he did not have anything to drink that night, but his passenger that he had with him said they did. So they weren't going to lie. Nick said, "I'm sorry, I was just kissing my girlfriend," but the officer did not appear to buy his story. Now, we've talked about Hulk Hogan, we've talked about Brooke, we've talked about Nick. Let's talk about Linda, his ex-wife, because she's not innocent either. For Linda, age is just a number, and who are we to judge? After their divorce, Linda moved on with her life, and that couldn't have been more apparent when Linda found herself with a blonde hunk. He was only 19 years old, while she's 48 years old. So she really went off to the other side of the spectrum. Of course, Brooke did not like this relationship Linda was in, and she felt like Charlie, the 19-year-old, was using her mom for financial gain and called him a loser and a drug user. To make matters worse for Linda, after the relationship with Charlie ended, he sued her for using their relationship as a means to get him to do work for her. So Charlie was trying to claim that he was employed by Linda or doing work for her free of charge, and now he's trying to backtrack, which sounds like Brooke was right here. But Nick isn't the only one who's had a run-in with the law. Poor Hulk Hogan just can't get away from Linda as the saga continues. Linda was arrested for allegedly driving a vehicle while under the influence. She pled guilty to a DUI after adamantly denying the charges. She was erratically driving and claimed that she had one glass of champagne, but it was mixing with her antibiotics. Linda was then sentenced to 3 years of probation. Now, when Linda is not robbing the cradle, she's making accusations against Hulk Hogan even after taking millions away from him. She accuses Hulk of serial cheating and blaming Hulk for throwing away 25 years of marriage. Even more, Linda has written a tell-all book detailing Hulk's alleged unrestrained outbursts and physical abuse at home and homosexual experiences. Interesting.
I gave that man everything. I gave him everything that I had.
Linda Hogan sobs as she relives the betrayal she says she suffered at the hands of her ex, Hulk Hogan.
I was honest. I was a good wife. I was truthful. I never cheated on him.
Linda is speaking out. Linda says their 2007 divorce has scarred her and her children, Brooke and Nick.
My kids to this day are still reeling, but they can't get their feet back on planet Earth. And I can't get my life back on track either. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Start over now? I'm 57 and, I don't know where I fit in this world anymore. It's just like I got plucked out of my life. I was so happy in that I thought I was happy in, and things just started disintegrating. And
let's talk a little bit about Linda's wild allegations regarding Brutus Beefcake. Hulk allegedly pounded walls, broke furniture, grabbed Linda by the throat, and had a relationship with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. That's right, not even Brutus is safe from the train wreck of the Hogans. Now, Hulk has denied these accusations and actually sued Linda for defamation. The accusations in her book scream for attention, and it kept Hulk Hogan's past front and center. So a book about her life was really just a book to drag Hulk. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about a church cult called Scientology that we're not going to actually really name here because YouTube does not like when we talk about them. Retired wrestler Hulk Hogan appears to be increasing his social activity with known Scientologists and reportedly dating a church member. According to a former church member, Aaron Smith-Levin, Hulk Hogan has met up with a bunch of these people for lunch in the past week, and it looks like he's being recruited. It also looks like he may have had an interaction with Tom Cruise, who is the top person in this church. I mean, besides the top of the church, the head guy, he's second below. He probably will take it over. Now, this organization has a huge base in Clearwater. I mean, I drove by their church building, whatever you want to call it. It's so ginormous. It's like actually appalling how gigantic it is. And it's huge. So there's a big base out there for Hulk to, I guess, enjoy. Aaron Smith-Levin, a former member, said, first the Hulkster starts dating one of these members. Now he's doing photo ops with other members and participating in businesses that are controlled by this organization. So not a great sign. Aaron is the vice president of the Aftermath Foundation, which helps former church members get back on their feet. Remember that this organization makes you isolate yourself from your family. A lot of these members don't have employment history, credit card history, bank information, a driver's license, or even formal education. So of course, like Hulk Hogan, the celebrities are different than that, but the standard members are pretty much set up for failure, so they can't leave. It looks like Sky Daly is the member of the church who Hulk Hogan was seen around. Both of her parents are members and they live in Clearwater, so it looks like he's the recent recruit.
He just married into a very high-level generational Scientology family. And what all these articles are asking is, who's Sky Daly? But what they're not saying is that she was born into Scientology and both her parents have achieved OT8, the highest level of Scientology's spiritual chart. And honestly, there's some debate as to whether Sky was the reason that Hulk Hogan's last marriage ended, because he coupled up and got remarried again very quickly.
So there is a lot of scandal there, and it gets really dark, and I don't even want to get any deeper because I'm scared of these people. We've actually talked about Vince before on this channel, but back in the 90s, he was on trial for distributing steroids to these men to make them stronger. Hulk Hogan has always denied ever taking these type of drugs, although he changed his tune when he was facing real consequences. He admitted that he had used them in the past. Even though he tried to say that he had never used them before, he could have gotten in legal trouble if he lied, because he would be lying under prosecution. Now, this usage was fairly common for people in his field, but it definitely was something he did not want to admit to. It changed how people looked at him. There was also another scandal I want to talk about, which involved a moment where Hulk Hogan was choking someone out on TV, where it kind of crossed a line. I mean, wrestling's kind of fake. I think we know this, but he took it to a new level. He actually choked out a man named Richard on live TV. In the build up to the first ever WrestleMania, just 5 days before the event, Hulk and Mr. T made an appearance on a talk show hosted by Richard Belzer called Hot Properties. Now, Richard's attitude was that wrestling was all fake, which was a definite no-no back in the day. Hulk and Mr. T resisted at first, but then he wouldn't let it go, so Hulk decided to go in. This was just days before the biggest wrestling event of all time, and Hulk was trying to sell the pay-per-view, so he couldn't just expose the business on live TV, could he? Hulk Hogan legitimately choked him out, and he dropped limp on the floor. He actually ended up getting sued for this for $5 million in personal injury. The lawsuit was settled out of court, and the story has gone on to become a legend in the wrestling history.
This incident is from a 1985 episode of Hot Properties, hosted by the late Richard Belzer. Tension arose when Richard used a word that left Mr. T puzzled.
Well, you use a big word. See, Mr. T...
Antithetical means opposite. Forgive me.
Right. I'm a street brother. That's why the kids...
Well, I'm from the street, too.
That's why the kids...
I learned that word myself.
This miscommunication didn't sit right with Hulk Hogan.
What? The reason you were so cocky is because Mr. T promised me he wouldn't lay a hand on anybody, even though you look like a mugger.
To lighten the mood, they suggested they do a demonstration for the audience, which Richard agreed, without knowing what was involved.
Now, the first thing you need to know about amateur wrestling...
Yes?
...or professional wrestling are submission holds. You just tell me, brother, when you want him to quit squealing, okay? All right. It's called a front chin lock. How about it, T? Keep like that for a little while. Because...